Detective Inspector Sarah Matthews had been working as a royal protection officer for 12 years when everything changed on that cold Tuesday morning in March. She arrived at Kensington Palace earlier than usual, the morning mist still clinging to the ancient stone walls as she made her routine security sweep of Prince William's private office. Sarah had always been meticulous about her duties. Born in Manchester to a working-class family, she had fought her way through the ranks of the Metropolitan Police before being selected for the elite Royal Protection Unit. Her colleagues respected her attention to detail and unwavering professionalism, qualities that had earned her the trust of the royal family over the years. The office was quiet as she entered, sunlight streaming through the tall windows and casting long shadows across the mahogany desk where Prince William conducted his daily correspondence. Sarah began her standard security check, examining the windows, testing the locks, and scanning for any unusual objects or potential threats that might have been introduced overnight. As she moved around the large oak desk, something caught her eye. A small, almost invisible wire protruded from beneath the heavy wooden surface. At first, she assumed it might be part of the computer setup or telephone system, but her training had taught her to investigate anything unusual, no matter how minor it appeared. Crouching down, Sarah carefully examined the area beneath the desk. What she discovered made her blood run cold. A sophisticated listening device had been expertly installed, so well hidden that it would have gone unnoticed by anyone not specifically looking for surveillance equipment. The device was professional grade, not some amateur recording gadget, but military-level surveillance technology that required significant expertise to install and operate. Her hands trembled slightly as she photographed the device from multiple angles, being careful not to disturb its position. The implications were staggering. Someone had managed to infiltrate one of the most secure locations in Britain and plant surveillance equipment directly in the private workspace of the future King of England. This wasn't just a security breach. It was a potential national security crisis. Sarah's mind raced through the possibilities. Who could have had access to install such a device? The list of people with unrestricted access to Prince William's office was extremely limited. Palace staff, senior royal protection officers, government officials, and family members all came under suspicion. The thought that someone within their trusted circle could be responsible was almost too shocking to contemplate. The device appeared to have been in place for some time, based on the small amount of dust that had accumulated around its edges. This meant that potentially months of private conversations, confidential discussions about state matters, family affairs, and sensitive royal business could have been recorded and transmitted to unknown parties. The scope of the potential intelligence breach was enormous. Sarah knew she had to act quickly but carefully. Protocol demanded that she immediately report the discovery to her superior officer, but she also understood that news of this magnitude could not be contained easily. Once reported, the information would spread through multiple agencies and departments, increasing the risk of leaks to the media or, worse, to whoever had planted the device in the first place. She made the difficult decision to document everything thoroughly before making any reports. Using her police training, Sarah photographed the device from every angle, noted its exact position and specifications, and began creating a detailed timeline of who had access to the office over the previous months. This information would be crucial for the investigation that was sure to follow. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her shoulders as she completed her examination. Sarah understood that her discovery would likely trigger the largest security investigation in royal history. Intelligence services, police departments, and royal protection units would all become involved in determining how this breach had occurred and who was responsible. As she prepared to leave the office and make her report, Sarah took one last look around the room that had suddenly become the center of a potential conspiracy. The morning sunlight continued to stream through the windows, but the atmosphere had changed completely. What had been a routine security check had uncovered evidence of what appeared to be a sophisticated espionage operation targeting the very heart of the British monarchy. The palace walls, which had protected royal secrets for centuries, had been penetrated by modern surveillance technology. Sarah knew that her discovery would send shockwaves through the establishment and potentially change the way royal security operated forever. The question that haunted her as she left the office was not just who had planted the device, but what they had already learned from their covert surveillance of one of the most powerful men in Britain. Walking through the palace corridors toward her superior's office, Sarah Matthews carried with her the knowledge that would soon expose a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of British society. The small device she had discovered beneath Prince William's desk was about to unleash a storm that would shake the foundations of the monarchy itself. Commander James Harrison had seen many crises during his 25 years in royal protection, but nothing had prepared him for the report that Detective Inspector Sarah Matthews delivered to his office that Tuesday morning. As head of the Royal Protection Command, Harrison understood immediately that they were facing an unprecedented security breach that could have far-reaching consequences for the monarchy and national security. Harrison listened intently as Sarah described her discovery, studying the photographs she had taken and reviewing her detailed notes. His experienced eye recognized the sophisticated nature of the surveillance device, and he knew that this was not the work of amateur spies or overzealous journalists. The equipment suggested professional intelligence operatives with substantial resources and expertise. The first priority was to secure the immediate area and begin a comprehensive sweep of all royal residences and offices. Harrison assembled a team of the country's most skilled counter-surveillance experts, including specialists from MI5, the government communications headquarters, and elite police units. The operation had to be conducted with absolute secrecy to prevent whoever was responsible from destroying evidence or covering their tracks. Within hours, teams were deployed to Kensington Palace, Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, and other royal properties. Using advanced detection equipment, they began the painstaking process of searching for additional surveillance devices. The scale of the operation was enormous, requiring hundreds of personnel working around the clock to examine every room, office, and private space used by members of the royal family. The initial results were deeply troubling. Additional devices were discovered in 3 other locations within Kensington Palace, including one in a conference room where Prince William regularly met with government officials and palace advisors. Each device was photographed, analyzed, and carefully removed by forensic experts, who hoped to trace their origin and determine how long they had been operational. Intelligence analysts began the complex task of trying to identify the source of the surveillance equipment. The devices were examined for fingerprints, DNA evidence, and manufacturing details that might provide clues about their origin. Serial numbers were traced through international databases, and the sophisticated circuitry was analyzed to determine the likely manufacturer and potential purchasers. Meanwhile, Harrison faced the delicate task of informing Prince William about the discovery without causing panic or compromising the ongoing investigation. The prince was scheduled to return to Kensington Palace that afternoon from a series of official engagements in Scotland, and Harrison knew that the conversation would be one of the most difficult of his career. The security implications extended far beyond the royal family. If foreign intelligence services had successfully penetrated royal security, they potentially had access to sensitive government information that was regularly discussed in Prince William's presence. State secrets, diplomatic strategies, and confidential policy discussions could all have been compromised, requiring immediate consultation with the highest levels of government. Harrison coordinated with the Cabinet Office and the Prime Minister's security team to assess the potential damage. A comprehensive review was ordered of all sensitive matters that had been discussed in the compromised locations over the previous 6 months. This included meetings with foreign dignitaries, briefings on international affairs, discussions about domestic policy, and private conversations about royal family matters. The investigation team began reconstructing a timeline of everyone who had access to Prince William's office during the period when the devices were believed to have been installed. This included palace staff, security personnel, maintenance workers, government officials, family members, and visitors. Each person would need to be thoroughly investigated, their backgrounds checked, and their movements during the relevant period documented and verified. The forensic analysis of the surveillance equipment revealed disturbing details about its capabilities. The devices were not simple recording units, but sophisticated transmission equipment capable of streaming audio in real time to remote receivers. This meant that conversations were potentially being monitored live by unknown parties, rather than simply recorded for later retrieval. Technical experts worked to trace the transmission frequencies and determine the range of the devices. They discovered that the equipment was designed to transmit to a receiver within approximately 2 miles of the palace, suggesting that the operators were likely monitoring from somewhere in central London. This revelation opened up new avenues for investigation, including reviewing security camera footage from the surrounding area. and analyzing electronic signals that might have been intercepted by government monitoring stations. As the investigation expanded, Harrison realized they were dealing with a conspiracy that went far beyond a simple security breach. The level of planning, resources, and expertise required to successfully install multiple surveillance devices in one of Britain's most secure locations suggested the involvement of either a foreign intelligence service or a highly sophisticated domestic operation with substantial backing. The pressure to solve the case quickly was enormous, but Harrison knew that rushing the investigation could result in missing crucial evidence or allowing the perpetrators to escape justice. He established a secure command center within Scotland Yard where all information related to the case was centralized and access was strictly limited to personnel with the highest security clearances. Communication between team members was conducted using encrypted channels, and all physical evidence was handled according to the most stringent forensic protocols. Harrison understood that any procedural mistakes could compromise not only the investigation, but also any future prosecution of those responsible for this unprecedented breach of royal security. The weight of responsibility was immense as Harrison coordinated the various aspects of the investigation while maintaining the absolute secrecy necessary to prevent public panic and protect ongoing operations. He knew that the coming days would determine whether they could successfully identify and apprehend those responsible for what appeared to be one of the most serious security breaches in modern royal history. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, the government's leading audio forensics expert, had analyzed countless recordings during her 15-year career, but the task before her was unlike anything she had ever encountered. The surveillance devices recovered from Prince William's office had been transmitting for months, and intelligence agencies had managed to intercept and record many of those transmissions. Now, Dr. Chen faced the monumental responsibility of analyzing hundreds of hours of covertly recorded conversations from the heart of the British royal family. Working in a secure facility beneath Thames House, the headquarters of MI5, Dr. Chen began the painstaking process of reviewing the intercepted audio files. The recordings were of exceptional quality, capturing every word spoken in Prince William's office with crystal clarity. The sophisticated nature of the surveillance equipment meant that even whispered conversations and telephone calls had been recorded with professional precision. The first recordings Dr. Chen analyzed were routine administrative discussions between Prince William and his private secretary about scheduling royal engagements and managing his official diary. However, as she progressed through the chronological archive, the content became increasingly sensitive and potentially damaging to both the royal family and national security interests. Among the most shocking discoveries were recordings of private conversations between Prince William and his father, King Charles III, discussing internal family matters and their concerns about various members of the royal household. These intimate discussions revealed tensions, disagreements, and personal opinions that had never been intended for public consumption. The potential for embarrassment and family discord if these recordings became public was enormous. More troubling from a national security perspective were the recorded meetings between Prince William and senior government officials, including the Prime Minister, Foreign Secretary, and various intelligence chiefs. These conversations contained sensitive information about international relations, diplomatic strategies, ongoing security operations, and classified intelligence assessments that could compromise British interests if they fell into the wrong hands. Dr. Chen discovered recordings of discussions about the royal family's relationship with foreign governments, including candid assessments of world leaders and diplomatic strategies being pursued by the British government. There were conversations about security threats facing the royal family, details of protection arrangements, and information about planned visits to sensitive locations that could be used by hostile forces to plan attacks. One particularly disturbing set of recordings captured a meeting where Prince William was briefed about potential terrorist threats against the royal family. The discussion included specific intelligence about planned attacks, the identities of suspected terrorists, and details of ongoing counter-terrorism operations. This information in the wrong hands could not only compromise ongoing investigations, but also endanger the lives of intelligence operatives and potential victims. The audio analysis revealed the presence of multiple voices in many recordings, indicating that the surveillance had captured conversations involving dozens of individuals who had no idea their words were being recorded. Cabinet ministers, foreign ambassadors, religious leaders, charity executives, and family friends had all been unwittingly recorded during their private discussions with Prince William. Dr. Chen's technical analysis of the recordings provided crucial clues about the surveillance operation. The audio quality and capture techniques suggested that multiple devices had been used simultaneously, creating redundant coverage to ensure that no conversations were missed. The timestamps on the files revealed that the surveillance had been active for at least 8 months, possibly longer. The forensic examination of the audio files also revealed attempts to edit or manipulate certain recordings. Sophisticated audio editing software had been used to isolate specific comments and statements, suggesting that the intercepted material was being prepared for potential blackmail or public release. This discovery added a new dimension to the investigation, indicating that the surveillance operation had malicious intent beyond simple intelligence gathering. Working with intelligence analysts, Dr. Chen began categorizing the recorded material based on its sensitivity and potential impact. The most classified discussions were flagged for immediate security review, while recordings containing personal family matters were segregated for separate analysis. The scope of the compromised information was staggering, affecting virtually every aspect of Prince William's official duties and private life. The analysis revealed that whoever was behind the surveillance operation had gained access to state secrets, personal confidences, family disputes, and sensitive intelligence that could be used for political manipulation, blackmail, or foreign espionage purposes. The recorded conversations provided intimate insights into the thinking and decision-making processes at the highest levels of British society. Among the most sensitive discoveries were recordings of Prince William discussing his concerns about certain government policies and his private opinions about political figures. These candid assessments, never intended for public consumption, could create constitutional crises if revealed, as they might be interpreted as improper political interference by a member of the royal family. Dr. Chen also uncovered evidence that the surveillance operation was specifically targeting information about the royal family's financial affairs, including discussions about investments, property transactions, and charitable funding arrangements. This suggested that the perpetrators might have been seeking information for financial gain or to expose potentially embarrassing details about royal wealth and spending. The technical sophistication of the surveillance equipment and the professional quality of the recorded audio indicated that significant resources had been invested in this operation. The perpetrators clearly had access to military-grade surveillance technology and the expertise to install and operate it within one of Britain's most secure locations. As Dr. Chen completed her preliminary analysis, she compiled a comprehensive report detailing the scope and implications of the surveillance breach. The document, classified at the highest levels of government secrecy, outlined hundreds of hours of compromised conversations and identified the various national security risks posed by the unauthorized recording operation. The audio revelations painted a picture of a sophisticated espionage operation that had successfully penetrated the inner circles of the British establishment. The recordings contained enough sensitive material to potentially destabilize the government, embarrass the royal family, and compromise ongoing intelligence operations around the world. The question now facing investigators was who had orchestrated this unprecedented breach of royal security, and what they intended to do with the massive archive of secret recordings they had obtained. Detective Chief Inspector Michael Rodriguez had spent 3 weeks following a complex trail of evidence that led through London's financial district, international banking networks, and shadowy intelligence communities across Europe. What had begun as an investigation into surveillance devices at Kensington Palace had evolved into something far more sinister. A conspiracy involving foreign agents, corrupt officials, and a network of individuals with access to the highest levels of British society. The breakthrough came when forensic accountants discovered unusual financial transactions linked to several palace employees who had access to Prince William's office. Large cash deposits, offshore accounts, and payments from shell companies registered in various tax havens painted a picture of systematic corruption that had been operating for years under the noses of royal security services. Rodriguez focused his investigation on Thomas Whitmore, a senior maintenance coordinator who had worked at Kensington Palace for 12 years. Whitmore's financial records showed a lifestyle that far exceeded his official salary, including expensive cars, luxury holidays, and property investments that should have been impossible on his palace wages. Bank records revealed regular payments of £10,000 into his accounts from a company registered in the Cayman Islands. Surveillance teams began monitoring Whitmore's activities outside the palace, documenting his meetings with unknown individuals, and tracking his movements around London. The investigation revealed that Whitmore was meeting regularly with a man identified as Viktor Petrov, a Russian businessman with suspected links to foreign intelligence services. These meetings occurred in various locations across London, including expensive restaurants, private clubs, and secluded parks where surveillance was difficult. The intelligence picture became clearer when investigators discovered that Petrov was operating under diplomatic cover as a cultural attaché at the Russian embassy in London. However, his background revealed extensive training in electronic surveillance and intelligence gathering, suggesting that his cultural duties were merely a front for espionage activities. Phone records showed that Petrov had been in regular contact with several other palace employees over the past 2 years. Rodriguez's team uncovered evidence of a sophisticated recruitment operation that had targeted palace staff with financial difficulties or personal vulnerabilities. The conspirators had identified employees with access to sensitive areas and systematically approached them with offers of financial assistance in exchange for small favors. What began as minor requests for information gradually escalated to installing surveillance equipment and providing access to restricted areas. The investigation revealed that at least 6 palace employees had been compromised, creating a network of assets within the royal household that could be activated for various intelligence operations. These individuals had been carefully selected based on their positions, access levels, and personal circumstances that made them susceptible to recruitment by foreign intelligence services. Technical analysis of the surveillance equipment confirmed that it was manufactured by a German company that specialized in professional intelligence gathering tools. The devices were not commercially available and could only be purchased by government agencies or legitimate intelligence organizations. This discovery suggested that the surveillance operation was state-sponsored and part of a broader intelligence campaign against British interests. The scope of the conspiracy extended beyond simple surveillance. Investigators discovered that the compromised palace employees had been providing detailed information about royal security procedures, travel plans, and personal schedules that could be used for more serious operations. The information gathered could facilitate assassination attempts, kidnapping plots, or other attacks against members of the royal family. Rodriguez worked closely with MI5 and counterintelligence specialists to map the full extent of the foreign penetration of royal security. The investigation revealed connections to similar operations targeting other European monarchies and government institutions, suggesting a coordinated international intelligence campaign designed to gather sensitive information from Western allies. The conspirators had been remarkably sophisticated in their operational security, using encrypted communications, coded meetings, and complex financial arrangements to hide their activities. They had studied royal security procedures and identified weaknesses that could be exploited without triggering automatic security alerts. The operation demonstrated a level of planning and resources that could only come from a professional intelligence organization. Evidence emerged that the surveillance operation was just one component of a broader intelligence campaign targeting British political and social institutions. Similar devices had been planted in government offices, military facilities, and corporate headquarters across London, creating a comprehensive surveillance network that provided foreign intelligence services with unprecedented access to British secrets. The investigation took on international dimensions when evidence emerged linking the conspiracy to intelligence operations in France, Germany, and other NATO allies. The surveillance campaign appeared to be part of a coordinated effort to penetrate Western security and gather intelligence that could be used for political manipulation, economic espionage, or military planning. Rodriguez coordinated with international law enforcement agencies to track the flow of money and equipment used in the surveillance operation. The financial investigation revealed a complex network of front companies, offshore accounts, and legitimate businesses that had been used to fund the conspiracy and provide cover for intelligence operatives working in multiple countries. The personal cost of the investigation was significant for Rodriguez, who worked 18-hour days for weeks while maintaining absolute secrecy about the case. The pressure from senior officials to solve the conspiracy quickly was enormous, but he understood that premature arrests could compromise ongoing operations and allow other foreign agents to escape detection. As the investigation progressed, Rodriguez realized they were dealing with one of the most sophisticated foreign intelligence operations ever discovered on British soil. The conspiracy had successfully penetrated the heart of the British establishment and gathered intelligence that could be used to compromise national security for years to come. The evidence collected painted a picture of systematic foreign interference in British affairs that went far beyond traditional espionage activities. The conspirators had sought to gather information that could be used for blackmail, political manipulation, and strategic planning against British interests. The implications for national security were staggering, requiring immediate action to neutralize the threat and prevent further penetration of sensitive institutions. Rodriguez prepared for the complex task of coordinating simultaneous arrests across multiple locations, while ensuring that all evidence was preserved and that other members of the conspiracy could not destroy evidence or flee the country. The operation would require precise timing and coordination between multiple law enforcement agencies to ensure that the full extent of the conspiracy was uncovered and those responsible were brought to justice. The arrests began at precisely 6 o'clock on a Thursday morning in April, exactly 6 weeks after Detective Inspector Sarah Matthews had made her shocking discovery beneath Prince William's desk. Operation Crown Shield, as it had been designated by intelligence services, involved over 200 police officers, intelligence agents, and security personnel conducting simultaneous raids across London and 3 other European capitals. Detective Chief Inspector Michael Rodriguez coordinated the primary arrests from a command center established in Scotland Yard, watching as armed police teams moved into position at addresses across London. The operation had been planned with military precision, designed to prevent any of the conspirators from escaping or destroying evidence that could compromise the investigation. Thomas Whitmore was arrested at his home in suburban London as he prepared to leave for work at Kensington Palace. The arrest team found him attempting to delete files from his computer and destroy documents that contained codes and contact information for his foreign handlers. Despite his efforts to destroy evidence, forensic computer specialists were able to recover detailed records of his espionage activities spanning 3 years. Across London, Viktor Petrov was arrested at the Russian embassy as he attempted to claim diplomatic immunity. However, evidence gathered by intelligence services proved that his diplomatic status was fraudulent and that he was operating as an illegal intelligence officer under false credentials. His arrest caused a significant diplomatic incident, with the Russian government initially denying any knowledge of his activities before quietly agreeing to cooperate with the investigation. The coordinated arrests netted 12 individuals in London alone, including 6 palace employees, 3 foreign intelligence operatives, and 3 British citizens who had been recruited to support the conspiracy. Each arrest yielded additional evidence that helped investigators understand the full scope of the surveillance operation and its connections to other intelligence activities across Europe. The evidence recovered during the arrests was staggering in its scope and detail. Investigators found detailed plans for surveillance operations targeting other members of the royal family, maps of palace security arrangements, copies of classified government documents, and financial records showing payments totaling over £2 million to corrupted palace employees over a 3-year period. Perhaps most shocking was the discovery of a detailed assassination plot targeting Prince William during a planned visit to Northern Ireland. The conspirators had gathered intelligence about his travel route, security arrangements, and accommodation details that could have been used to plan a sophisticated attack. This discovery elevated the investigation from espionage to potential terrorism charges. The international dimensions of the conspiracy became clear as arrests were made simultaneously in Paris, Berlin, and Brussels. The surveillance operation at Kensington Palace was just one component of a broader intelligence campaign that had successfully penetrated government institutions and royal households across Western Europe. The coordination required for such an operation indicated state-level involvement and significant financial resources. Intelligence analysis of recovered documents revealed that the conspirators had been planning to release selected portions of the recorded conversations to create maximum political and social disruption in Britain. The audio recordings had been carefully edited to remove context and emphasize statements that could be interpreted as controversial or embarrassing to the royal family and government officials. The investigation uncovered evidence that foreign intelligence services had been using the surveillance information to influence British policy decisions through targeted blackmail and manipulation of government officials. Several senior civil servants and political figures had been approached with veiled threats based on information gathered through the palace surveillance operation. Prince William was finally briefed on the full extent of the conspiracy during a secure meeting at Windsor Castle, attended by the Prime Minister, the head of MI5, and senior royal protection officers. The prince's reaction was described by those present as a mixture of shock, anger, and determination to ensure that such a breach could never happen again. He immediately authorized a complete overhaul of royal security procedures and the implementation of new counter-surveillance measures. The legal proceedings that followed were conducted under unprecedented secrecy due to the sensitive nature of the evidence and the national security implications of the case. Special courts were established to handle the prosecution of the conspirators, with extensive measures taken to protect classified information while ensuring that justice was served. Thomas Whitmore and 5 other palace employees pleaded guilty to espionage charges and were sentenced to lengthy prison terms ranging from 15 to 25 years. Their cooperation with investigators helped uncover additional intelligence operations and led to the identification of other foreign agents operating in Britain under various covers. Viktor Petrov and the other foreign intelligence operatives were convicted of espionage, terrorism, conspiracy, and violations of diplomatic protocols. The international nature of their crimes required complex negotiations between multiple governments to determine appropriate sentencing and prisoner exchange arrangements. The broader implications of Operation Crown Shield extended far beyond the immediate prosecutions. The discovery of such extensive foreign penetration of British institutions led to a comprehensive review of national security procedures, diplomatic protocols, and intelligence sharing arrangements with allied nations. New legislation was enacted to strengthen penalties for espionage activities and improve coordination between various security agencies. Sarah Matthews, the royal protection officer whose diligence had uncovered the conspiracy, was awarded the George Medal for her service to national security. Her careful documentation of the surveillance devices and professional handling of the initial investigation had been crucial to the success of the broader operation. She was promoted to Detective Chief Inspector and assigned to lead a new royal security unit tasked with preventing future intelligence penetration. The royal family implemented sweeping changes to their security arrangements, including regular electronic sweeps of all royal residences, enhanced background checks for all staff, and new protocols for handling sensitive information. The trust that had characterized relationships between the royal household and its employees was replaced by a more cautious approach that acknowledged the reality of modern intelligence threats. The aftermath of the conspiracy also led to significant changes in British intelligence operations overseas, with increased efforts to identify and neutralize foreign surveillance networks before they could penetrate sensitive domestic institutions. The lessons learned from Operation Crown Shield influenced security procedures not only in Britain but throughout NATO and allied nations facing similar threats. Years later, as classified details of the conspiracy were gradually released to historians and researchers, the full scope of the foreign intelligence operation became clear. What had begun with Sarah Matthews discovering a small device beneath a royal desk had exposed one of the most sophisticated espionage networks ever uncovered, demonstrating both the vulnerability of democratic institutions and the dedication of those sworn to protect them.